Hey everybody, welcome to another Alan and Greg concert.
Yeah.
October edition. We were really looking for, shows that were about female empowerment, about independence.
We have 3 really great writing teams that we're going to share with you tonight.
So support them, go to their sites, follow them, because we can only bring these musicals to you if we have a wonderful support system behind us. That's for every musical that's out there. That's why we want to expose these fellow team members to you guys. So let's support them, and on with the show.
Yeah. On to you, Sierra and Nathan.
Hello, everyone.
Nice. Thank you.
Hi, Nathan. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Sierra. Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm digging this painting behind you. I love it, and it's beautiful. For that side. And it's fabulous.
It is quite beautiful.
Oh, and then there's that mustache. Do you just do this all day?
It's hard not to. Sometimes I just think about it. It tickles right up here. So I find myself, I understand the mustache twitch now.
There you go. Well, welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us again for New Voices, a concert series. Tonight, we have 3 wonderful writers for you. I'm very excited to have them here to share. I'm also very excited to have Nathan here co-hosting with me this evening. This is his first time with us tonight as well. So give him a big digital round of welcome applause. We will hear you through the stratospheres of digital internet. Just as a reminder, if you are loving what you're seeing tonight, if you have a good time, and if you want to donate to a cause as a thank you for tonight's concert, we would encourage you to head on over to Broadway for Racial Justice. Their website and their Instagram handle are linked below so that you can find them very easily. Broadway for Racial Justice is a new organization that seeks to aid in the fight for racial justice and equity within the theater community at large. They provide resources to BIPOCs. They create safe spaces throughout the theater community for creativity and artistry to thrive. So we would encourage you that if you enjoy the writers tonight, if you enjoy the concert tonight, if you're just having a great time, or if you have giving in your heart, that you head on over to www.bfrj.org and make a donation as your way of saying thank you. So with that, like I said, we have 3 wonderful writers tonight. We got Nathan. We got a whole party. It's going to be awesome. And we have our first writer pair here. We have Carrie Caffrey and Earl Morrows. And did I butcher either of those names in any way, shape, or form?
Flawless. Yeah, that was great. Flawless.
Got it.
Yes. I have achieved my goal for this evening. The end. Okay. Thank you guys for being here tonight. How are you?
Thanks for having us. Thank you. We're great. Yeah, we just got off a class. We're in grad school, and we just finished a Friday evening class.
Well, what a better way to spend the rest of the Friday night.
Right? So, first question, I would say, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you guys got started writing, a little bit about your background, how you found each other, if that's through grad school or not, and your writing team at large?
Yeah. Yeah. So I I started in musical theater as an actor, and I went to Northwestern for undergrad and started kind of in the acting track, and then found MT writing through a program there called the WAMU Show, which sort of encourages young writers to work together to form a sort of big original musical every year. So I started writing through that, and then through that program got word of this program that we're now in together at NYU. And basically in undergrad, I'm a lyricist, and I was like, well, I need a composer. I need a collaborator to work with. And this program introduced me to Earl.
Hi, and I'm Earl, and I'm from Australia. If you can't from my accent, I'm from a very small town in the middle of Australia called Mildura, which still has no coronavirus cases because we are so remote from the rest of the world.
It's hard to reach.
So yeah, big thoughts and prayers to Mildura. We love. So I started writing music at some community theatre, little tiny things we did back home in Australia. and then I went to uni, and I wrote a couple of short musicals with Monash Uni Student Theatre, which is really exciting. And then they said, Earl, you got to go to America. And so I came to America, and then a global pandemic happened. But that's fine, because it's all worth it. Carrie. And so really, coronavirus or Carrie, I'd take Carrie always. And then we just started writing together about 6 months ago. Yeah, about a year now.
Yeah.
And yes, we've written a couple of things, and
So in our first year of the program, you sort of work with everyone else. It's the graduate musical theater writing program at NYU, and you sort of get a chance to work with everyone, and we just hit it off working together. And then in your second year, which we're in now, you write a full show with the partner that you choose to work with on your thesis.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Very stressful.
I'm surprised to hear, first of all, very proud that we are continuing our tradition of one Aussie per show at the moment. Because I don't know if you've seen the other episodes, but we've had one Aussie on each episode. And I mean, that's what, 3 episodes so far? But still.
They're everywhere.
Secondly, I'm very surprised to hear there's anything but like bush out in the center of Australia.
There's a lovely small town called Mildura, and if anyone is looking for a holiday destination, anyone out there, I can recommend it.
There we go.
The dirt is red. And there is kangaroos on my front lawn, so like it is a stereotype.
I'm there. Amazing. So tell us a little bit about, okay, you're writing as a pair, right? Tell us about your process, because one of you, Carrie, you do lyrics, right? And then Earl, you do music. So how does your writing process work together?
It fluctuates. Sometimes Carrie will be like, I remember once one of the songs today, Carrie in half an hour had a brainwave and just lyric came to her, and then some other times it's like, hey, I've got a fun quirky little thing, and then Carrie's like, oh, this feels like.
So we don't do just lyric first or just music first, but in our program we have a lot of really tight deadlines, so sometimes you have to be doing both at once. So we do a little bit of both.
Yeah. We kind of just make it happen, and we spend far too much time talking about nonsense, and then eventually it's like, oh crap, we have to write a song. And we might as well do that. That sounds like fun.
But I think a lot of it is we just like being in the room and collaborative, and thankfully we've been able to get into each other's bubbles during this, so it hasn't been too hard to get to each other's places.
Yeah, it's just a bike ride away.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
That's good. Nathan, you got anything for this dynamic duo?
I mean, you guys have such a great energy together, and I'm super excited to see and hear what you guys have in store tonight. I do have just a quick question. I want to know, how did you guys arrive at a single point of this is what we're gonna write about?
So for this year's project, which is the second song you're going to hear, one of them is actually another project we sort of started, and we're more working on the second project right now, but we had to pitch a bunch of ideas to our lab faculty, and we sort of narrowed it down to 2 and worked on those 2 for like 3 months
of just
we had about 5 songs written for each of these 2 shows, and then we sort of had to, when it came down to it, think about what was probably like
what really spoke to us.
Yeah, what spoke to us, what felt the most like our voice, and what we felt would be most important to give to the world right now.
Yeah.
What we felt like was sort of needed more. So we I don't know if we can talk about it a little more before we play that second song, but that's sort of how we came to the questions we were asking ourselves to get to the show that we were working on right now.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Tell us a little bit about the first song we're going to hear. That's going to be Born for Today, right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about that song, that show, that work.
Yeah, so that was born out of another assignment from our first year. That was a historical figure, and a couple years ago, I came across Nellie Bly, who is one of the first famous female reporters, and she traveled around the world in, I think, 73 days. Her goal was to beat Jules Verne's fictional record.
88 days is for chumps.
Yeah.
80 days is for chumps.
Yeah, so she went around the world in I think 72, 73 days. And by boat, by train, she worked for not the time. She worked for a New York newspaper that is no longer in existence. But she grew up in Pittsburgh, and she got started writing because this local article in the local paper said the article was called "What Girls Are Good For," and it basically just said women should stay in the home, have no place in this world doing anything other than housework. And she, as a 16-year-old, was like, I don't believe that. And she wrote an op-ed to this local Pittsburgh paper, basically telling off the reporter. And he thought the writing was so good that he hired her. So she got started at age 16 in this local paper, moved to New York, became this really big sensation for doing these really incredible pieces, not just on traveling the world. She also went undercover in an insane asylum to do an expose on how they treated the women there.
Really cool lady.
Yeah, she moved to Mexico for a year and like joined the resistance of their government. Like, she's a very cool woman. But this musical focuses more on her journey around the world. And this song starts sort of in real life. There's a book that she wrote about her experience, and she talks about how she had wanted to do this journey for a long time, and her editor kept saying, no, it's too big. We're not going to send a lone woman around the world by herself. And when he finally did say yes, he said, "You leave tomorrow."
Sure.
She packed up in one day, got in this boat, and left. And this is sort of her thought process, realizing, oh my God, I just committed to this.
My goodness. All right.
Wow.
So, with that, here we go. We're going to get that plate over here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it just a fantasy to try and turn a work of fiction into something tangible and true? If you would be insane enough to try. I haven't had a single sign, preview, or prediction. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. But I won't sit and watch the waves roll by. Everyone has moments. Maybe this is mine. Hurry up and pull yourself together. Time to start your story here somehow. It's nothing but a storm, a bit of weather. Even if you wanted, it's too late to turn back now. Head is dizzy, heart might burst, but I am jumping in head first. I must be mad for missing every warning. But I was born for today. I was born to explore. It's enthralling, it's a calling I can't ignore. It's all underway. It's the vow I swore. I'm not standing in the shadows anymore. I'm gonna show the world what girls are good for. So what if you have never left the city? So what if they've been taking bets you'll crack? Prove you deserve more than their pity. Seek out the story, or don't bother going back to be respected. World renowned, you have to learn to stand your ground. And I know I'll have found my way by morning. 'Cause I was born for today. I was born to explore. No preparing if you're daring deeds that no one's done before. It's all underway. It's the vow I swore. I'm not standing in the shadows anymore. I'm gonna show the world what girls are good for. I can see it now. I make it back to dock. In under 80 days, I've spanned the earth. My record's unrivaled, every cynic struck with shock. Because this reporter's finally proved her worth. There's a fine line between brash and brave. But great reporters don't behave, 'cause boundaries never break if you obey. And I was born for today. I was born to explore. When I make the deadline, I'll be the headline they adore. It's all underway. It's the vow I swore. I'm not standing in the shadows anymore. I'm gonna show the world what this girl is good for. Okay.
Bravo. Oh, Sierra, you're muted. Sierra, we can't hear you.
Oh, geez. I swore it would never happen on this, and it has. I love the little end cap.
I think I cracked my screen during the filming of that, and I still haven't fully got it fixed.
Oh my.
That is commitment to adventure.
Oh,
Oh dear. I love the line, show the world what a girl is good for. And I think that is brilliant. It reminds me, the music reminds me of those like epic contemporary musical theater. Like I'm like envisioning like a Samantha Bark standing center stage like she did like in Pretty Woman, just like,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Just like out there close.
Mm-hmm.
Is that associated with the show that you guys wrote, or was it written as like a single song as part of the prompt from school?
It was written as a single song. We're sort of developing that show, but it sort of got backburnered in response to the current full show we're working on. But we are intending to write more of that project in the future.
Yeah.
What a powerful story. It's just, I mean, the story just drives itself, and the music, you can tell it's moving. I mean, it's got to get around the world, and it definitely carries that with it. You know, as far as tone, and as far as just the levity, but the seriousness, but also the intention in the song is really, really nice. So well done, guys.
The power behind it for sure. So segueing into what you're working on now, this show. You started talking about it a little bit earlier, and we'll of course get to it in the full writers roundtable later on this evening as well. But as we head into watching the second song, tell us about what you're currently working on.
Yeah. So when we were thinking about what is really important, timely, what are we thinking about? Something that's been on my mind a lot, both just in experience and in the last few years, has been the Me Too movement, and kind of the complexities of sexual harassment. In that, I think it's not often as black and white as people view it, of just, well, this person did a bad thing and this person is the victim. I'm really interested in the complexities of complicity and how bystanders play into harassment and assault, and just sort of the culture that we have around that. And
how, like, there's a figure in such a powerful situation and we let their behavior slide when really we should be speaking up and, and saying something when we find, they're in this powerful spot. And for my career, I can't say anything. Obviously, the Harvey Weinstein, many people didn't speak out for so long.
Yeah.
And so we find that a really fascinating, complex sort of area.
Yeah, I just read Ronan Farrow's book, Catch and Kill, as well, which was fascinating about how all the ways people tried to silence him from writing that story. But particularly, I read this article called Prep School Predators that sort of led to this idea. It's about how teachers, especially in private schools on the East Coast, have gotten away with a lot of harassment and assault cases in the last few decades because the schools hide it from the public and bury it with money, basically. And I think particularly in the arts, I've noticed that there is sort of a long history of harassment getting ignored under the guise of it just being about having to touch people for things, or it I think things feel less formal in the arts, and so there's less of a rubric for how to deal with this. So basically, this show follows a high school show choir at a private prep school on the East Coast, and their director, who is harassing the captain of the choir, and sort of how the students deal with that power dynamic, but how they're also complicit in the harassment because some of them play into it for their own gain for success within the choir. And so it's sort of the theme of the show is how far would you go for success, basically.
It's a tricky one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I feel like, an age-old question that we always try to answer, right? All right. So let's take a look at this second piece here then, and we'll see you after.
"5 a.m. weekends can suck, but you get up and go for show. You stretch and you shower and you contour your face till you glow for show. Your mom and dad fight, so you stick in your beats and see how many times you can take the repeats of Mr. C drilling and drilling the new combo choreo for show. At the warm-up, no one stops to chat, they just mumble hello for show. When you're at the top of the tower, they bow down below for show. So you wave to the teacher cause he looks upset, and you know when he's mad just how mean he can get. But he likes when you laugh, so you giggle and let your hair flow for show. There's a method in madness, and flirting was never sin. He likes soloist life, so you work out for hours to stay thin. So what if he's handsy? Don't let it get under your skin. Why shy away? Just play into his touch. It's much easier just to give in. 'Cause if you let him massage both your shoulders, he's happy. We win. As their leader, I see it like paying a debt that we owe. But if anyone asked why I let him, I'd say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, but no one would see when I say breeze my face if I started crying all over the place. 'Cause captains compete for the team. No one cares about your self-esteem. So just smile and swallow your scream. Mom will pay for the Dukas. She just won't come sit in the seat I saved in the front row, so she'll never know what I do for show. No, they'll never know what I do for show.
I got chills and I was also like,
Yeah, that's basically how we feel every time we write a song for the show.
That's a bit of a rough one.
Yeah.
Like how it's like you want to praise the work, but you're like the concept makes you go, ah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you guys did a really nice job of going there and getting into the nitty gritty and the conflicts that are just driving that character. Man.
There are definitely some inky visuals in there for sure. I think the one that got me was the rubbing of the shoulders, and I was just like,
oh yeah. And the one that got me was the you smile and flirt and like let down your hair,
mm-hmm.
and you got to do it because you're the captain. That was another thing that really got to me. I was like, oh, what? And it makes me think of the question: what do our leaders, all of the things that our leaders go through that we don't have no idea?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, kudos to you and thank you to you for taking on such a subject that I think is always one that should be discussed and aware of. And, like many things, 2020, the year of discussions, which is excellent.
Yeah. I gotta hand it to you guys for opening the door on that one. It's not an easy subject to broach. I think you guys have done it really nicely.
Well, we're so excited to have you join us back again at the end of the evening for our writer roundtable. We're going to move on to our second writer for the evening, but thank you guys for preparing and sharing the work of yours tonight, and we can't wait to hear more about it later this evening.
Thanks so much. Thank you. We'll talk to you then.
Bye, guys.
Thank you guys.
Okay. I'm so excited. We have Mr. Matt Day up next. Hey, Matt.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's such a pleasure to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too.
I have, this is going to sound like one of those weird stalker things that you say, right? But I have known about you for a bit because like I'm from Chicago area and I know Scott very well. And you guys are like besties, right?
I think you have me confused with someone else.
There's totally another Matt. Okay. Egg on my face.
It's okay. I will say there are other Matt Days who I don't think they write musical theater, but there's another like musician named Matt Day because my Spotify page has got all messed up. And
oh no.
Like a photographer from Australia, like you were talking about. I did lots of research on the people named Matt Day because I was like trying to find a website.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of complicated things of who gets, mattday.com, and I didn't. So.
Well, that is a crazy small world, and I now have. Let me wipe this egg off my face. Here we go. Okay. Great. But it's still a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And we're so excited to have you sharing your music tonight. So then on that note, why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about you, your background, how you started writing, and kind of what you're working on currently.
Yeah, so I'm from Indianapolis, and I don't know. I was in the Chicago Musical Theater Festival. I thought that's why you knew.
That might also be why.
Maybe. Mm-hmm. But I'm from Indianapolis. I've been writing. The first show I wrote, we performed it in the summer of 2018. So I've probably only been writing musical theater stuff for like 3 years. I'm actually a math teacher, as crazy as that sounds. That's my day life. So I've written a few shows just around here and trying to branch out. Currently, I'm working on a show called Make Me a Match, which we'll do some songs from. Yeah, that's kind of my story.
Amazing. And what was there something specifically that drew you to writing? Like, how do you go from math teacher to musical writer?
Well, it's weird. I've kind of been like, I wrote songs back when I was in high school, but they were like the 16-year-old, not appropriate for adult ears kind of songs I would play for my friends, that nobody will ever hear again. And then I kind of stopped for a while. But I wasn't like one of those people that grew up like in musical theater. Like I took a couple trips to New York in high school with like the show choir, because I was in the band, and saw some musicals, and I really liked them, but it was never really my big thing, like a lot of people. But at some point in maybe the last 5 years, I became kind of obsessed with it, because I liked the idea of music telling a story. I'd always liked like concept albums, like The Wall by Pink Floyd, and the Green Day album American Idiot, like concept albums where the music told a story. And that was kind of when I started really getting into musicals. Like I listened to like Hedwig and the Angry Inch and shows that were relatable to music that I liked, and it just kind of drug me in, and I thought, oh, this is my kind of stuff. And now it's, you can see like posters behind me and all kinds of stuff. So
yes. Yes.
And then I just eventually one day said, I think I can do that, like everyone does, I guess, and started trying to figure it out. And I bought some books on Amazon that I thought would help, and I just trial and error kind of started working my way through it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love the I like this, I can do this, and like the take initiative attitude.
That is something that kind of defines my life. Is I like this, I'm going to try to do it. Not always successful, but
hey, but like, what a great way to live and to just do new things. I love that.
Yeah.
So is there a musical that you would say has been most instrumental in terms of inspiring you towards your writing?
Well, I don't know about inspiring me, but my favorite musical is Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Because I love the music and I love storytelling. The kind of composers who inspire me the most are like a Joe Iconis, like a Tom Kitt, kind of that style of kind of contemporary musical theater. That's kind of heavy, kind of rockish, that kind of stuff really inspires me the most.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's I was gonna ask you, so when you finally made that decision, when you're like, hey, I'm going to do this, and you went ahead with that, how did you come to, the topic? Like, what is it in your background that's connecting you with this piece?
Well, so the first show I wrote, there's a Fringe festival in Indianapolis called the Indie Fringe Festival. And I had been trying to write, and so we kind of set a goal, like we're going to try to write something for this. It's in the summer. I wrote this show called Paper Swords, and it was about LARPing. And I was like, I kind of looked at musicals and I was like, what's like a weird gimmick, that'll get noticed, and then we go with that. So we wrote this musical about LARPing called Paper Swords. And actually, while I was writing with another friend, and while we were writing it, I kind of had like a moderate freak out one day. We were getting close. We're having a little trouble with the story. I was like, we should just throw it all away. And one day I sat down at the piano and I had this idea. I was like, what if, it's like a dating show? This was the whole idea. What if it's like a dating show, but they sing? That was the whole thing, like the dating game, but they sing. And I sat down at this old piano at the school I was working at one day when I was supposed to be working. And I started playing like this doo-wop thing, and I wrote this song called Pick Me, and it was just like these three bachelors telling the bachelorette why they should pick him. And it was silly, and it was written in a day, and we were like, no, let's just write the show that we've been writing. And so that sat for a while, about a year, and then I started working with my friends Jordan and Josh Brown, who are the book writers on Make Me a Match. We decided we wanted to write together, and we were looking for ideas. And I said, well, I have this one song. What do you think of this concept? What do you think of this like setting for a show? And that was where I took it to. And then they kind of went and made it a whole world of a show beyond just, hey, what if they sing? but the concept of Make Me a Match is basic. I mean, it is that. It's like if we took the dating game and we put it in 2020 and we made them sing. That's kind of the concept of the show. And so there's 3 bachelors, there's a bachelorette on every episode. The gimmick of like the TV show Make Me a Match is that they actually are like singing and performing. It's not like musical singing where they're, in their heads. Like they're actually performing for the camera. So they sing these songs, and then that's kind of half the show. And the other half is the backstage stuff. The show kind of revolves around an intern named Meredith, the makeup artist named Lexi, and the bachelorette Beth, and how they, as young women, are kind of put in situations by the very popular and very famous host of the show, Danny Sharp. And so the show, when we wrote it and when we put it on the first time, did a little workshop, it was kind of right at the height of like the Me Too movement, when that was first hitting. And so it was very topical at the time, and it was it had a good message of, this stuff isn't okay. It's not okay for people in power. And I know you just talked about this. It's not okay for people in power to use their power, and for especially men in power, and to take advantage of young females that they are in power over. Yeah, so there's kind of 2 worlds of the show, and it balances kind of between the more serious side, obviously, of the harassment, and the comedy of this silly show that for some reason is very popular on television in 2020.
Yeah,
I love it.
As a Bachelor Nation groupie, all I can do is imagine the Bachelor or Bachelorette now if they were singing.
Yeah, and there is kind of there's this whole push right now. If you scroll through TV, basic cable television channels, they're doing all these old, game shows.
Yeah,
like Press Your Luck and all those old game shows, and it could happen that there would be like a dating game in 2020 on TV.
Yeah.
We're in nostalgia culture right now, so why not?
Yeah. All right. Heavy right now.
I
think
never gets old.
Sorry, what was that, Nathan?
Like I said, the dating game never gets old. It's always.
There's like a board game for it too, right? Like
there's a board game for every show from back then.
Okay, so we've got 2 songs. We've got First Date Roundup, and we've got Different Lens, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to see First Date Roundup first.
Yeah.
Move into Different Lens. So give us a little context around First Date Roundup.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to give you like the 2 worlds of the show that I was talking about. Mm-hmm. So First Date Roundup is within the show. So I told you earlier about the song called Pick Me. That's the bachelors kind of giving their introduction. Like on all those shows where they say like, "Hi, I'm Brad and I'm 22," and that kind of stuff. So they do that. But then they come back around. The next segment, of course, on a dating show the question would be, where would you take me on our first date? And when I was writing the music, I thought it would be kind of fun if all the songs that they sing within the show are kind of weird genres. So there was the doo-wop song, and then one day I was strumming the guitar, and I was like, that's, I started playing kind of like a boom chick Johnny Cash type thing, and it kind of turned into like a country western hoedown. I wrote these words, and I thought, everyone's gonna hate this. Like, this is so silly. But it turned out, yeah, I know, it's a great plug. It turned out really, really fun, and it's, yeah, and I think it's a great introduction to like the 3 characters and the 3 bachelors that you see within the show.
Great.
Introduce the bachelors because it won't make sense. So the first one, his name is Steve. He's played by this wonderful actor in Indianapolis named Carrington Shorter. Steve is like the stereotypical like rich businessman. Steve is a doorknob designer from Orange County, California. On those shows they always had really weird occupations.
Yeah.
Steve's a doorknob designer from Orange County, California. And then we meet Todd. Todd is a bit, I don't know what word, he's like very interested in the bedroom, if you know what I mean. Okay. And he is, he's like a bartender at a senior center. And then the last one we meet is named Brad. And Brad He's a kindergarten teacher, and he's very nice, but he unfortunately was running late to the taping of the show, and he missed the rehearsal. So he doesn't really understand. He's never seen the show before, so he doesn't really understand why everyone is singing. And then I briefly play Danny Sharp, the host of the show.
All right.
Looking forward to it.
I know. I'm so excited. All right. Well, here we go.
I'll take you to a fine restaurant where you can get whatever you want. My sommelier will choose your wine that will take you back a step in time. Your food will look like a color chart. The plate will be a work of art. But that's not all and that's not it, cause this is a date that'll never quit. My helicopter will pick us up and take us to my favorite club. I'll split the doorman $50 cause we don't hang around these months. In the back we'll get a show where no others could afford to go. The star on stage could call the fray. It's just my friend Beyonce. On the first date roundup, I don't want today to be the one that gets away. So if you'll give me a shot, I think you'll like it a lot.
First, we'll start at my favorite shop, where the fun will never stop. There they sell some toys and games. Don't be shy, don't be afraid. Just take your pick of what's in your heart. Then we'll go back for the fun to start. If you're worried about hurting me, my safety word is zippy. We'll take 2 steps, then another 3 steps. Right down the hall is where we'll fall. I'll strip you down and we'll go to town. And when I say go to town,
Top.
I mean I'm
Top.
gonna.
It's a family show, man.
On the first date roundup, I don't want today to be the one that gets away. So if you'll give me a shot,
I think you'll like me a lot. I'll take you out to dinner and you can pick a movie, or we could go out dancing and get pretty groovy. Get to know each other on a walk, or just sit and have a talk. Yeehaw! I don't. Now it's time to take a whirl, so all you lads take you a girl. Just spin them round and lift them up. This is the first date roundup.
I don't want today to be the one that gets away. So if you'll give me a shot, I think you'll like it. I think you'll like it. I think you'll like it a lot. On the first date roundup.
Well, how did oh, they're all there.
I'm dancing.
Hi.
I love it.
I'm still dancing right now.
My feet are down underneath here doing a hoedown jig thing. That is very fun.
Okay.
And it looks like we've had a whole set change.
Yeah. So the next song, Different Lens, we wanted to perform live because it's got fun harmonies in it, and we thought why not? So I brought some friends. This is Katie, and this is Abby.
Hi.
And this is my brand new wife, Kelly.
What's up?
Yes, brand new wife. Amazing.
All
right.
That's awesome.
Well, let me give you your little intro screen, and then, well, first give us a little insight into what we're about to see.
Yeah, so this is the other side of the show. This is kind of the backstage world, and this is actually the closing number of the show. So not to give anything away, but for everyone who's going to see it someday. What happens is the Meredith and Lexi and Beth, who I talked about earlier, the three women who the show kind of revolves around, they're finally able at the end to, after being harassed and pushed around by the host of the show, Danny Sharp, they're finally able to kind of tear him down on live TV and kind of expose everything that he stood for. So at the end of the show, kind of like a happy ending, they basically sing this song, which is kind of like a motto for them, that if you just kind of start seeing things differently, and if you look at the world through other people's eyes, then you can change yourself and you can change who you are and you can make the world a better place.
I love that. All right. Well, I'm going to give you the intro and the stage here. Okay.
Wonderful.
I once was quiet and didn't believe that words by themselves could hurt. But it wasn't until I opened my eyes and saw that words can turn you to dirt. When I was told that it didn't matter, the weight of their power felt like lead. And for just a minute I began to believe that I would never get ahead. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to start. I thought that if I tried to fight, I might make it all fall apart. But I fought, and I learned. When you look at the world through a different lens, you can see what others go through, and then you may change the way that you act and believe. And the words you say will start to lead to a new world for you and me. A place where we all can be safe and sure of who we are, and all we ever need to raise the bar. I've seen how good the world can be. Even those you love can make you cry. But I know that we have a way to go. But you can't see a change unless you try. When they say you can't be who you want, and they tell you what to do with yourself, they press you down and they hold you back and throw you on the shelf. But they can't take us back to what we were before. They can try to hold us down, but our voices will not be ignored. We will fly, we will win, you will see. When you look at the world through a different lens, you can see what others go through, and then you may change the way that you act and believe. And the words you say will start to lead to a new world for you and me. A place where we all can be safe and sure that who we are is all we ever need to raise the bar. Never give up and never give in. I will never give up and never give up and never give in. I will never give up and never give in. Never give up and never give in. I will never give up and never give in. Never give up and never give in. I will never give up and never give in. Never give up and never give in. I will never give up and never give in. Never give up and never give in. I will never give up and never give in. I will never give up and never give in. I will never give up and never give in. When you look at the world through a different lens, you can see what others go through, and then you may change the way that you act and believe. And the words you say will start to lead to a new world. fight that comes after will not be as hard. 'Cause when you fight together, you'll go far. You'll go far. And there's no more. Look at the world through a different lens.
Yes. Oh,
Great
Miss
one.
performance.
It's not often you get to see a strong trio of all your female leads singing in the same, you know?
Yes.
They are wonderful. They plug them. They're all members of this choir named the Circle City Chamber Choir,
C4.
C4, and they're wonderful.
That
Circle
sounds
City Chamber Choir.
Really don't know how to do it. Yeah. Also, can I plug one thing? Not to
Yeah.
be
This is your
that
time.
song is the title track off of my first album I released this summer.
Oh,
Album
Everywhere where streaming services are sold. So
called.
yeah, just avoid the other Matt Day and look for me.
What's the album called?
It's called Different Lens. And
Matt Day album.
that day.
Different Lens. I'm putting it in our comments so that viewers can go and see it
awesome.
and find it and stream it.
Awesome.
Because we want everybody here to be celebrated. Everybody's so great. I love good old female harmonies.
Me too.
Wow.
Fabulous. Well, we can't wait to talk to you in just a little bit, for a little bit longer here during the writers roundtable. We're going to move on to our last writer of the evening, but thank you, ladies. You sound beautiful.
It's amazing. Thank you so much.
We'll talk to you soon, Matt. Woo! I love me some female harmonies.
I'm still just grooving. What a cool build.
Yes. I was like sitting here. I was like, just tapping. I was like, that's gonna, you know,
having a great time.
Although my solid pun did go under the radar in the digital sphere. The C4, and I was like, well, that sounds explosive. Nobody heard it. It's fine. Yeah. So I had to repeat it now, of course. Now, last but certainly not least, we have a repeat writer with us tonight with a whole new team duo, and I'm very excited to see what she's got on the docket for tonight. Sam Rosenblatt.
What's
Stephen
up?
Bennett. They're both here. Welcome back, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me back.
Of course. Are you in a different locale? You look like you might be in a different locale.
I am just in another room in the same house.
Aren't we all these days? Where are you going on vacation? I don't know. Maybe the kitchen.
This wall looks good. Yeah, I'll use it.
Right. So we know a little bit about you from last time, but I want to learn about the you that is partners with Stephen Bennett this time. So why don't the two of you tell us a little bit about yourself? Sam, remind our viewers. Stephen, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you guys started writing together, and kind of what you're working on now.
Stephen, you want to go first?
Sure. I have been writing music for theater for a lot of years since I thought I was going to be an actor, and was doing a lot of that in the city. I moved to the city to be an actor, and I increasingly found that I was writing music for the shows I was in. I was singing songs in the shows, or I just had a guitar around in the whatever piece I was doing, a lot of which were really sort of devised or immersive. And so I'd just be walking around a garden with a guitar and writing things. I said a bunch of poems to music, and I did a bunch of, writing and things. And eventually I was sort of oh, this is what I should be doing. And so I ended up, just like Carrie and Earl earlier, going to the musical theater writing program at NYU, which I just finished this past year. And with Sam, we ended up doing over the 1920 school year, doing writing our musical, which both of the tracks that you're going to hear come from.
Wicked cool. Congrats on graduating.
Yes.
Thank you. It's crazy to graduate in the middle of COVID, but we finished so our thesis musical Night Witches, we actually finished it remotely in like 2 different parts of New York. We had a table read over Zoom. We recorded all 38 tracks from our show, like between me and Steven and then my friend Elspeth, who was here last time. We recorded them all remotely, and then Steven mixed them together. And so it's a little crazy bit of a time here.
Yeah. But you did the thing. And that's the thing. Is that even this crazy, crazy time can't stop art makers from making art, which is incredible and amazing all in itself. So Night Witches, what a brilliant title for the October concert. It's almost like you might have planned that a little bit. I'm thinking. So tell us about the conception of this idea.
So in World War II, the first all-female regiment in the Soviet Union to fly in combat were called the Night Witches. And we had to pitch 2 different ideas to our faculty in the beginning of the year, just like Carrie and Earl did. And we stumbled across the Night Witches, and we were like, that should be a musical. That needs to be a musical. And so we just started writing this over a year ago, I guess now. And it's kind of grown from there.
Amazing.
The Night Witches. Wow. I want to be part of that. A cool subject matter too. Really, really, really cool.
So how much research and dramaturgy and essentially background work had to go into this musical?
A lot.
Like,
and we did the dramaturgical work of both a lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of reading up on sort of Soviet society at the time, because there's a gay relationship, that runs through the show. We did a lot of trying to sort of like research about the actual feelings in Soviet Russia and like attitudes and social mores and stuff in regards to that at the time. So we did a lot of sort of trying to figure out the social dynamics as well as the history. And it also took several times writing the story and just, doing the dramaturgy of like character arcs in a way that, since it's largely an original storyline that is inspired by their true to life story.
Fantastic. And what year is this? Like, when was the first female regiment?
1941. 1941. Yeah, through the end of the war, but it is the early 1940s. So right after, it's like starts a few months after Hitler invades and breaks his deal with the Soviet Union. So one of the things that I think has become even more topical in the year plus since we've started writing is that like it's about survival. It's about women trying to figure out like how to be useful. I mean, like, talk about artists trying to figure out what to do and when theaters are closed, but also about people trying to survive a time when their death is like seems all but certain. And I think that really has grown to resonate even more in as we've experienced the last 6 or so months.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Is
Sorry.
like why this show? No, I was going to say that was going to be my next question. You like perfectly segued into it. Was why this show? Why this story right now? And I would add on to that as well and say, what do you want people to take away from this show?
I think something that we've really stuck with since the beginning is, even though it is a story about war and about fighting and sacrifice, I think we want people to take away a sense of hope at the end of it. And yeah, hope, I think, is really the main word that I'm looking for.
And I think that the themes that we really gravitated towards at the beginning, it's taken a long time to sort of like realize how and why they really are important. But the things that we really loved about it, right, were the community that they sort of found and really, you know, went through the kiln and hardened in war, the community, and also staying true to yourself, staying true to the things that you really care about, that really define you, despite the fact that you have to give so much up. And that has been reinforced, I think, in the process of writing this.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Can I ask you, do you know how many were in this regiment?
So,
yeah,
over the course of the, I don't know exactly. Sam, do you have an exact count? But I
did at one point.
Started with something like 300 or 400, and then they added to their ranks over the course. You know, it was 3-4 years. They only lost, though, like a shockingly small number comparatively. They only lost like 2 or 3 dozen pilots, maybe, over the course of the 4 years, which, you know, is still people dead in combat. But for the way that Soviets died, you know, in that war, it is amazing that these regiments, specifically the Night Witches, lost so few fighters. They flew in pairs, so almost always they went down, you know, a plane went down and there were 2 people lost.
And particularly their planes, they flew these little like crop duster planes that someone would actually, the reason they were called the Night Witches is they would turn off the engine mid-flight and like plummet silently down. And then someone would climb out and release the bombs, and then they'd have to restart the engine before they hit the ground and died. Like, it was insane. So the fact that they only lost, you know, a handful of soldiers altogether, like, that's incredible to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Badass. Can I say badass on the air? Is that a thing? Yeah, women are badass.
Let it ring out.
Okay, so, all right. On that note, tell us a little bit about what we're going to hear in the first song, Dream for You.
Yes, so Dream for You is a duet between our 2 female love interests, Olga and Dina, and it's right before they are shipped off to combat, and it's like their last night together, and they're hoping that they're going to be able to be together still through the war.
And it's the, I mean, you'll see how far they get, but it is by far the most that they have been able to express themselves.
Okay.
Thus far.
Yeah, the Russian 1940s, not exactly known for the I suppose.
Yeah,
all right. Well, here we go.
I can only hope we'll fly together. I can only hope you'll be protected. I can only hope for cloudless nights and good weather, whether I'm with you or not. Can you promise me anything? Can you guarantee you'll be safe? I can't promise you anything at all, but I can still hope for you, that somehow you'll make it through. I don't dare to dream for myself, so I'll dream for you. I can only hope you won't be too daring. I can only hope you'll be safe with me. I can only hope for easy flights and clear bearing our hopes for this war. Can you promise me anything? I can't promise. Can you guarantee you'll be safe? I can't promise you anything at all. Promise me something. make it through. You'll make it through. I don't dare to dream for myself, so I dream for you. I don't dare to dream for myself, so I'll dream for you.
That's so lovely.
Thank
Oh.
you.
Still trying to get rid of these goosebumps here. Don't mind me.
It's such a lovely duet. It really is. And I mean, the whole story itself sounds like it's just, I can't speak. I just like it a lot. I can't even find the words to express like how much I like the concept around the story being told. One question I'm curious about after listening to that first piece. Okay, so you have the 1940s and you have Russia, which are two very distinct sounding time periods and sounding places. Did the musical stylings of time period or place inspire you in the writing at all? Did you decide to not take it into account? I'm just curious how those affect the writing process for you guys, or if it did at all.
It did a bit, and we did a lot of playing with the sort of stereotypical sounds of more the Soviet Union, because they were a little bit cut off from the rest, like what we would think of the 1940s. There was not as much. They did have sort of like a jazz scene through the 30s, but there was not sort of the same, like, universal sound. And we did play around with a little bit of the sort of like Soviet, maybe more stereotypical sound. But I feel like what we pretty quickly figured out that like most of the show was a bit of a departure from that. Most of the show was in our own world. I mean, like, and its own world, and that we wanted like the voices of the characters as we had them to rule most of it. So though we do have a bunch of sort of the stylistic influences of the time and place, I think that doesn't rule as much of the show.
Sure. Are there, if someone were to hear the whole score, are there subtle, I think you just hinted at it, but like subtle nods to things here or there? What are the things that you chose to nod to? I'm curious.
Yeah, there's definitely some Soviet jazz like moments, and there's definitely some Soviet folk, or actually like Russian folk music, sort of taken from the like more old school a cappella like group singing. There's a good deal of militaristic marchy music, especially at the beginning. And we sort of fade out. I mean, it comes back through, but we sort of fade out of that as we get into the story. The story is propelled less by that. But yeah, I think those are the big ones.
Cool. I love that.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about heading into this next song, what we're seeing there, because this one's a solo, The Glory, right? So this is a solo number. So tell us a bit about heading into this next song.
I did the last one. It was only fair.
That's correct. We did. So one of the things that we shared this idea of Olga as this sort of aspiring to be the Soviet archetype ideal of the superwoman, right? And at the time, Soviets had for a long time held this narrative that women could be equal, when of course they were not treated as such. But they in propaganda, they put this, these women that could be everything. They could be fighters, they could be, outdoors women, and also be mothers, and also be motherly, and be in this female stereotype. And at the beginning of the play, Olga epitomizes all of this, right? And like Olga's sort of like comes in with this very idealistic vision that is trapped within the vision of women that Russia, that the Soviets had at the time. And so this is her sort of version of an I Want song that focuses on trying to reconcile what she thinks, knows, and wants with the realities that actually face her.
Fabulous. All right, I'm ready to hear this one.
Got it.
Here we go.
I came here to be a pilot, the woman in control. Galina says I'm meant to serve in a different role. I feel the pressure on me now. I don't think it will end. But I still want to be the first seat. I've got a country to defend. I still want the papers and books to tell my story. I'm fighting in a war I must win, but I still want the glory. The pilots will strut around as if they own the place. But without someone guiding them, they'll fall flat on their face. I know the world is watching us, and some hope we will fail. So we've got to band together, because together we'll prevail. Maybe soon the papers and books will tell our story. But we're fighting in a war we must win. We can't be fighting for the glory. This is an opportunity. Even if I'm second seat, it's still an opportunity to show women can't be beat. If we can win, that's all we need to plant the seed for women to lead the advance. And someday the papers and books will tell our story. But for now, we're fighting in a war we must win. We're fighting to save our own skin. We're fighting with the strength from within. We will change history. That will be your glory.
Nice. Haunting.
That baseline.
Yeah.
It has such a driving, like, ominous, I guess, for lack of a better word, feel that it just intrigues me to hear like the rest of it. I'm very intrigued by the music of this show.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear it.
I know. I want to hear more. Definitely heard the sort of Russian influence in that.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of, I feel like a little bit of that military.
Yeah.
We're talking about that marching vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to escape that just.
Okay, so the show is still in working progress. The show is written. What are next ideal steps?
We have a first draft. and we are going to continue working on that draft.
Yay! I love it. I love it. Do you have a specific kind of vision for where this goes?
I think we've both been talking about like a non-traditional, like not proscenium theater. Like we're not headed for like big commercial kind of deal. We had to write at the end of the year like a fake review, and Stephen was talking about like Circle in the Square, and I thought that was very cool. And so we were like thinking more of that along that lines than like proscenium. Everyone sits down and stares at the stage.
Amazing. Awesome. I like that. Yeah, I could see that vibe. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I want to expand our writer discussions here as we move into our writer roundtable. So we're going to bring back Carrie and Earl and Matt here. We're going to bring everybody back in.
Hey guys, welcome back.
Hello. Welcome.
Hi.
We're so excited to just talk to everybody and have, well, rather not us talk. We want you guys to talk now. Our job's done. Oh, no, we're so excited to hear all of your thoughts as a collective group, first of all, for you guys to meet each other, and then to hear you guys talk about writing in general. And so I'm going to throw a whopper at you right here to start. And whoever feels compelled to speak first, we'll kind of go around. What can writers bring to the realm right now in a time of COVID?
I'm that person who can't stand silence. I think that COVID is a time like it sucks. Like it obviously sucks. But it's almost a moment for writers who are like outside of what is considered the norm, or outside of like the places where the easily accessible like musical theater places, to kind of stick their nose in and say, hey, I'm here. Look at me. Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of see it as a time as what can't writers bring. We can. There's it's not like what can't we bring. We can bring anything. We are completely unlimited in this, and I find it a really exciting time to be a writer right now, because I think we're questioning a lot of what theater is and what theater can be, and and we're seeing that all these limitations that we have placed on what theater is for so many years kind of falling by the wayside, and perhaps the old guard and the gatekeepers of our industry falling away, and now is the time to be like, no, we can put something completely new, and we have the time to really work on our craft and work on ourselves and put some things out that are new and exciting. So I think it's a great time to be a writer right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think our program has really diversified in like all the things we're learning about. It's podcast musicals, it's film and TV and animation, and it's really cool to think about all the different ways we can write what we want to write. But in terms of like thematically what we bring to the world, I think right now, hope. Honestly, like I think that there is a certain calm and just in being able to experience new music, and the emotion of being able to sit in it, that just allows the kind of release. And I think that's something right now that I am very deeply missing about being part of an audience and a group of people. But one thing that has really stuck with me is back in March, the theater director of a theater in Minneapolis that I'm forgetting the name of. It's the big theater in Minneapolis. The Guthrie, yeah. The Guthrie's artistic director put out a statement earlier in the year, and he said that there was this study done on theater audiences and their heartbeats, and it was proven that by the end of a show, their heartbeats synced up. And so I think that experience of connection is something that artists can really provide in a time where we feel isolated in so many other things, but I think the music can still connect us even across boundaries.
That is so precious.
Beautiful.
I love that. I love that. I have to go find this article.
Yeah. We're curious about it.
Amazing. Sam, Stephen, do you have anything to contribute on that, or any thoughts before I have another question there?
I think that being a writer right now is, yes, about bringing hope and bringing connection and a sense of relief and joy, I think, to the world in any way that we can, whether that's writing stuff that people just need to hear, whether that's comedy, whether that's something really heartfelt. And I think that's such a big part of being a writer right now, is like taking care of yourself and also thinking like, how is taking care of myself also taking care of everyone who I'm connecting?
Yeah.
I think that it's also a time that's like it's really hard for people. And for a while back in March and April, like, so I was a teacher, and so obviously my schools were shut down, and we suddenly found ourselves with like all this free time. And I of course thought, oh, I'm gonna write, like I'm gonna do all this stuff. And I sat down and I was like trying to write something funny, and it was hard to be funny, and it was hard to just do anything for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a time for people have time. It's a time to express, but it's also a time to, be able to sit with it for a little while. Like if it's not there, like you have the time to come back to it eventually. There's no deadlines, for the most part, and there's nothing that like pushing anyone too hard. They can work at their own pace and work at their own mental speed.
Yes.
Yeah. I do kind of want to tail off that question a little bit. As far as like, you're working on this projects and you've been working on them for, a year, however long, a few years, and then all of a sudden, this happens, big disruption. What are some of the frustrations that you've dealt with in the pieces, and how has that changed your work? Or, how has that liberated you in some cool ways?
I think one of the things that the program, and I don't know if Carrie and Earl are dealing with this yet, or but is that Sam and I find is that the program is like makes you make a ton of work, which is amazing, right? Mm-hmm. For me, it's like deadlines are amazing. Make so much more work with deadlines, but at the same time, you need time to sit with something and mull over the problems, not force them out, not like, you need time to have it in the back of your mind and not the front of your mind. Mm-hmm. And I think that is an opportunity that Earl was talking about time that's absolutely something that coronavirus has given us in different ways, admittedly. But also it is tough to do something without an audience and to still not have the people like really in the same space, experiencing it. And that is a thing that I think is just, we've got to figure out. And we have the time that we have in the space that we have. And one of the things that I, as a writer, am trying to figure out is like, okay, so how do I make a lot of stuff, but not necessarily see it at the next part where I work with actors in a room where we see it on the whole thing on its feet? Because like Zoom table reads are really good in some ways and not helpful in other ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Sam.
Sorry. I also think that something that was a big challenge for us in the beginning was getting all of our stuff recorded. So that we can really hear it out loud and between the two of us with our professors, and I think that's actually something that I have found myself turning into an opportunity of like, okay, well, if I was to portray this, how would I sing it? How is this going to fit in my mouth versus how is it going to fit in someone else's mouth? Because something that was really cool actually is getting to hear Sonia and Tess and Georgia sing it, because we hadn't heard it with other people other than us. And so it's very cool to get to hear them do it. And because people aren't doing a lot, like actors aren't really working right now, and so they do have the time to record stuff and help us out with that, and that's so amazing, and we're so grateful to them, and that's very cool to get to hear it from yourself and then also from other people.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't imagine being a writer right now in terms of facing that challenge that you guys mentioned, which is not being able to go to that next step the way we have in the past, where you have people in the same room. Because I mean, even during preview weeks in the start of a show, after it's written, you're using audience reaction to gauge how rewrites might need to happen or things like that. And not have, like you said, the Zoom table reads are great, but then you don't get that instantaneous reaction. You're getting the laughter through like a chat box or something like that. So it's harder. I'm sure to properly gauge, okay, where can this writing adjust for the flow of the show and the reactions we're getting. Yeah, it's interesting. It goes, how can we find other ways to gauge that, and kind of makes you become resourceful a little bit.
Yeah, I think,
go ahead, Carrie. Yeah,
I was just gonna say one cool thing about recording has been, well, just learning that technologically, and it's been really nice to get so many demos, just sort of by virtue of having to. But in terms of sending it to actors, it's sort of also learning how to let go, and to give them the chance to like fully experience the piece and create something and send it back, and it's sometimes not at all what I thought it would be, but sometimes even better. It's been so different, and I've really enjoyed watching that and just sort of seeing where people take it. Whenever
because it's really exciting seeing when they come back and you have no idea what's going to be, and you get to see it fully realized.
Yeah.
So I was thinking I was missing the working with them in the room, and like being able to make on the fly changes, because an actor goes, oh, but I can do this cool trick with my voice, and you go, oh, whoa, and then you go, okay, we'll change it for that. But actually that's really interesting to think, well, you don't even get them telling you they can do the cool thing with their voice. They just do it, and then you get it. So that's really
when you don't get a chance to micromanage.
It's kind of like taking your baby over to like a teacher or a substitute teacher or something, and being like, please take care. Great. Yeah. What did you do with them? And then coming back after a week and going, okay, what are you like now?
Absolutely. Matt, you had something to chime in.
I was just going to say, I didn't ever used to realize, like, so I did that video and I sent the song off to some friends to record. And I said, well, just use, your Apple little headphones with the tiny little speaker in them. And I thought, well, it'll sound fine. And it's amazing how technology, like, I used to have to drag people over here to try to sing because I'm not much of a singer, and I would drag people over to sing into like a real microphone. And now I realize I can just say, hey, will you just sing this for me into your headphones, and I'll figure it all out and put it all together.
It is amazing that we are experiencing this in this time with technology where it is, with Zoom and with Apple and with all of these things, because like even a couple of years ago it would have been so different.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Pre-cloud, this would have been a nightmare. Can you imagine COVID?
I really wish.
Development.
So, do you guys see yourselves, as writers? I mean, of course, we're all going to write toward what we have kind of available, and writing to what we hope to have in the future again. But do you see yourselves working on pieces or making pieces more specific to this sort of genre, singing into iPhones or singing into things, writing pieces specifically for that, or just writing the piece and letting it live in the media that it does?
Yes, definitely. If not like actively in my head, certainly. Like all of the things I think, I'm sort of like, I go for other projects or small one-off songs or something, and I go for a certain and then I realize like, oh, this doesn't live on stage. This might not be for like, I was talking to late at night, I was talking to a friend about an interactive musical, and I realized like, oh, what I was describing is a musical. It's a video game. Like literally people online doing it, because I think my frame has just, and I didn't really want it to happen, but has a bit.
I think that means you may be the next Sondheim, because the content dictates form metaphor there. It sounds a lot like what you're describing. You're in that mindset of no.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna take that. I'm shutting up.
Super cool.
Love that latency, right? Go for it, Carrie. All about you guys tonight. I'm just here having fun. So
I mean, I do think it, as much the pandemic has shut down one channel, it's opened our eyes to a bunch of other ones. One other like side project I'm working on is like a satirical reality show in the future,
It's gonna be everywhere. Just you wait. I'm just a fan of this one. It's so funny.
But yeah, that one it couldn't really live on stage, but it was written as a podcast, and it's been sort of exciting to not just be like, to know that there's a place for that, and that people are creating more spaces for those kinds of things as a result of that. Also, I have a lot of roommates who are composers, and one of them is doing an animated feature, one of them is doing a video game. And they're all musicals, and it's really cool to see where people are taking that. I guess with our show, it's
so we're naively assuming theater will come back.
Yeah, we bravely,
naively, wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We believe in the perseverance of the live stage. Yeah, but yeah, I do. I think that content dictates form, and it's exciting to know that all of these ideas are possible, and you don't have to shut down an idea because it wouldn't work for just one format.
Yeah. The idea of what a musical can be has shifted dramatically. Like, it had already begun to shift in the last 10 years, but in the last 3 months, what a musical can be has gone, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
Incredible. I love to see that. I love it.
I'm curious to know, where do you guys find your inspiration? We had some interesting answers to this in the last one, so I'm curious, where do you pull your inspiration from? Where do you find your stories? Where do you find your stuff?
I mean, go ahead, Matt.
I usually start whenever I have an idea for a show, at least in my short amount of experience. I've always had a weird idea for a setting first. Like, I always kind of picture it like in my head. And of course, this goes back to like the, assuming it'll be on stage thing. I kind of like picture it in my head, and I see this like idea of like the setting and where all this would take place. And here's what might happen. And then we kind of, the story kind of happens out of that. Like, if we were in this place and if we were in this situation, what might happen? And that's kind of how it goes.
Maybe a unique situation, but Night Witches was literally formed based. We saw a Facebook post on like weird history facts you didn't know, and I sent it to Stephen. And I was like, "What about this?" And so that's where that one came from. But for me, I think in general, something I've started to notice about myself is I really like finding an interesting time in history where I can set a story that is mine.
When you say a story that is yours, like something that
an original kind of story,
an original thing, something that comes from your personal life, or
no, just an original story that like is my brainchild and my collaborator's brainchild, but is set in a time of history that appeals to me.
Ooh, I love that. Do you have a favorite time period in history?
At the moment, it is 1968 San Francisco, because that's the other show I'm working on.
I was going to say, that's very specific.
Sounds like a Howard and Ashbury type thing. Do you guys what was I going to say about this? Oh yeah, do you find yourselves being speaking of places where you pull where you get your influences, do you find yourselves as you progress through these shows finding influences that you never thought, and what are those?
All of them.
Oh,
All of it. All of it.
I mean, all the time. All the time. But everything is an influence, right?
Oh, yeah.
I've started writing in the last few months. I've started writing like a much more electronica inspired music because because I'm doing a lot of things virtually, and like also because it's something like very different than what I've been doing for the last couple of years. But like, when like Ariana Grande and like also like Labyrinth and Sia become like, inspirations, but then you also are trying to do like, more period things, or you also like blend that into folk music. I mean, I don't know. I think everything can be an inspiration, right? Like it's
yeah. Well, that's where I was kind of thinking too. Is I find like it's almost less about what it happened to be that I was doing and more what I was feeling, and then I placed whatever that was on the piece of media that I was reading or watching. And it could be, right now I'm reading George Saunders' 10th of December, and it's like a book of short stories, and it's wonderful and really like mind-boggling. And I found certain themes in there that I pull out and I think are related to our show, but also just like watching The Real Housewives. Like sometimes you find things that you think.
I was gonna say the music from the Great British Bake Off is excellent.
Oh my god!
But I think
love it.
it's like what you feel when you watch that, and depending on what you were working on at the time or thinking about, it tends to be like that the click comes not necessarily from the thing, but where you were in your life while you were watching the thing.
That's so true.
Most definitely.
Well, we are coming to the end of our evening here, and I want to close it out with each of you kind of sharing what's next for you, like whether that be working on what you currently share with us tonight, if you've got something else in the works, what's next, and what should we be on the lookout from each of you?
We'll start with Matt.
Okay. So actually, like today, we kind of put a temporary period on Make Me a Match. We made like solid progress and got that solid draft done, and so we're gonna take maybe a little break on that. Thank you. I had a little quarantine project that I started. I really like the TGIF show Boy Meets World. And so I decided to try to write a Boy Meets World parody musical.
Can't wait.
But I decided to try to write it all on my own, and I've never written like book scenes before. So it's been a bit of a learning curve and a bit of a challenge, but it's coming along, and it's a good time. I just sat at home for the first 2 months of quarantine and watched all 7 seasons of Boy Meets World and thought, I'm gonna do that as a musical.
I'm here for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of my favorite shows.
Amazing.
I love it. That's fantastic. Wow. Our Sam, Stephen, what do you guys got coming down the pike?
Well, Sam.
No, go ahead. You started talking.
I'm sort of doing one-offs at the moment. I actually have we're slowly getting sort of like back into Night Witches, but because Sam is also doing another show at the moment and we're all quarantine distracted, I'm sort of trying to go back and like just sit and like write songs by myself. And I don't know if and when they're coming out, like I don't have but I'm getting back used to writing lyrics and just getting back into like writing whole songs. So I don't know. I'm doing things for myself maybe for a while.
Great.
Yeah.
I am working on a princess story, which I presented in, was that August? I think that was August, with my other collaborator, Elspeth. And then I'm an alumni collaborator at GMTWP at NYU, so I'm working on that show with Elspeth and our collaborator, Amber. We're getting back into Night Witches, and then I'm also a curator and producer for a musical podcast, The Latest Draft. So I'm kind of juggling a lot of balls at the time, but keeping busy with all those projects. And I owe Stephen a whole bunch of standalone songs.
That's super exciting. Cool. Gary Earl.
Yeah. What do you got? So obviously, as this is our last year of the graduate musical theater writing program, so the finishing a good old draft of this by May is our current goal.
Then it opens on Broadway in June.
Yeah. When Broadway comes back, we've already booked the first act.
That's fine.
Otherwise, that podcast musical I mentioned is called Slice of Paradise. That is about 70 out of 90 minutes written.
Really?
Yeah, so it's sort of on the side there working. This summer, I think Sam and Stephen were also part of this, worked on a little children's musical, a lot of alumni collaborators for a local middle school. So that's sort of, it's cool. There's like 20 different composers and lyricists involved, and it's a little like Halloween haunted house musical. So that's coming up soon. But yeah, I think really just getting through grad school.
Yeah, and I'm doing some tunes for a little short film that's coming out back home in Australia, which I'm quite excited for, which will be coming out in December, hopefully, which will be that's what's going on. Taking that.
I'm all in favor of naps.
Yeah.
What a time for them. Well, guys, we wish you all the best of luck. I can't wait to just follow along on all of your work, all of your writings, all of your adventures. You are all extremely talented. We're so grateful that you were willing to join us here tonight and share some of your work. I will leave you with this one comment because I think it perfectly sums up. We had someone just comment on the YouTube page. Thank you for a lovely evening and for sharing your talents. During this time of disruption and isolation, it is reassuring to know that people are still creating and connecting. And I think that there is the purpose of the thing. And I wanted to share that and express that gratitude that people are happy you are creating and creating connection.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
This is really cool, really fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really wonderful.
Oh my gosh, it was totally our treat. And yes, thank you. Have a great rest of your night. We wish you all the best. We will be following along. Everybody go and check out Sam and Steven and Carrie and Earl and Matt. Matt Day, make sure you have the right Matt Day. And we will bid you all a farewell this evening.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. This is awesome.
Thanks, Nathan, for being here with me tonight.
That was a blast. I had a great time.
So fun. These writers, man, these writers. Every month, they get me. I love the music. I love hearing the stories and everything. One last reminder here. We're going to put it up. Donate to Broadway for Racial Justice. If you had a great time tonight, support that connection, support the artistry, support the rebirth of theater. Please bring theater back. And we will see you for another New Voices concert series next month.
Just keep on connecting.
Every time I hear "Keep On," I think of Brady Bunch. We're gonna keep on. You know that Brady Bunch musical? No, that's right. Okay.
I'm done.
Have a great night, Nathan. Have a great night, audience. Thank you for being here. We will see you next